Welcome back to RSAC 2026. I'm Doug White, and joining me today is the wonderful Georges Bossert, who is the co-founder. I always love when I have founders too. He's the co-founder, Chief Technology and Product Officer at Sequoia.io. Thanks, George, for being here.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for welcoming me here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you could come. It was so exciting. We were talking earlier about France and how much I like France, but we also were talking about something not as pleasant.
We need to mix between cyber and champagne.
But both of us are working in intrusion detection areas and things like this. And one of the things that we've seen sort of starting to evolve is the threat from agentic AI. But I think your perspective is threats are from a little different. A lot of people say, "Oh, the agentic AI can attack me," but it's also a threat when we start embedding it in our response, right? Because it's easy to say, "I want AI. I want AI everywhere, all day, every day." But how do we do that effectively? So, what are the foundations that we need to start embedding in our SOCs to get there?
I truly believe that AI is a journey. It's something that comes progressively and that is kind of natural for everyone because it starts with data, it doesn't start with agents. It doesn't start with LLMs and things like this. It starts with understanding what's going on, knowing how to act, to respond, to detect. And so the foundations are the traditional foundation of our daily work that we want to accelerate. So when you want to accelerate, if you only put LLMs and agents, you just go faster wrong because you don't teach properly, you don't provide the data that you use as humans in your operations. If you don't provide this knowledge to the agents, these kinds of superpower is useless and even more dangerous, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, one of the terms that we talked about was garbage in, garbage out,
Exactly.
which is a very old term from my days as a programmer when they talked about that. And so if your LLM, I mean, if I just go buy an LLM or I use one of the friendly commercial, that's a really dangerous thing in terms of my SOC. Because my SOC may be different even from your SOC, right? I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah. When we did some benchmark at the very beginning of our journey, like 2 years ago, when we started to plug traditional LLMs to automate alert triage and investigations, without thinking about this, just making it from an engineering perspective, it brought roughly 60% of success rate, 60% of the conclusions executed by just an LLM, unconfigured LLM, and adapted LLMs were similar to what a human would do, what a SOC analyst would do. So 60% is very low when we are talking about critical operations and cybersecurity.
So you call this failing faster. I mean, I may be abbreviating it a little bit, but failing faster in the SOC. So as we start pushing this in there, tell me a little bit about how we fail faster, because I don't want to do that.
The agents will be as good as the context you provide to it. As you would do for a junior analyst, let's see that your AI agents, they will play like a junior analyst that join your team.
Okay.
If you don't provide any context, you just through alerts to your junior analysts, they won't be able to take advantage of their past years of knowledge of how the organization that is facing ongoing attacks are organized, configured, and structured, and so on. So they need to understand the servers, the networks, the configuration, the applications, the threat that goes with the business that relies on all of this infrastructure. And if you don't provide this information to your junior analysts, they won't be able to do effectively their work. And it's the very same for an agents. You need to provide context.
I like that analogy a lot, because I've been trying to think of good analogies for how to explain that. It kind of hit me when you were saying that about the junior analyst. So if you took your junior analyst and just turned them loose
Yeah.
Because one of the hardest things for students, when I teach intrusion detection, I have Security Onion, and we have this big fake network that I built. I know all about it. I know where the servers are. I know where they know nothing.
Yeah.
And it just blows them out of the water. I mean, because they don't have a deeper understanding of how everything fits together. And I think that's where we get with agentic AI, right? Because we just turn it loose and then say, here, this should solve all our problems.
And there is a small but very important difference between the junior analyst and the AI in such situation. In your class, like maybe in your class, in mine, the junior analysts or the students, when they don't know, they don't have an answer, most of them, they raise their hand and they ask for questions.
Right.
While an agent, usually when they don't know, they do not ask questions. They tend to believe they know and they go straight to the wall.
Yeah, or they just lie, like they lie and lie. I've seen them do that so much on technical topics where I finally just called them out and I said, I know you're lying now. Earlier, you sounded like you knew what you were saying. Now I know you're lying because I know what you're saying is wrong.
And that's very, very complex. When you integrate such technologies that tend to lie when they don't know how, they don't have the answers, they won't tell you they don't have the answers. They try to, with the best of what they have access to answer to your challenge. And they will, the end of the day, they will give you an answer that doesn't have any sense. But still, if you don't check, if you don't have a solution to verify all the agent's output,
right,
you might go in very big troubles because you will face a very badly organized SOC.
Do you think that people, and I think this, that people are mistaking the idea of like a chatbot for a reasoning framework that is two very, very different things in AI. One is very cheap and easy, one not so much. And it's this dangerous thing where I've got a junior analyst who's very good at talking to me, but doesn't really understand what's going on versus a much deeper trained person.
Exactly. That's why in Sequoia, to the detection material that we use that kickstart the investigation of the agent and so on, we attach to each detection rules AI, machine learning models and so on, and anomaly detection and so on. We attach very classical runbooks. These kind of material we all try to execute while investigating on alerts. We put all these runbooks that define how you can act and play on an alert. We attach this to each detection rule. And then when an alert happens, when a case is ongoing, we provide these inputs, this knowledge about how to react, how to investigate. We provide it to the LLMs. The same way that you would provide such info to your junior analyst to help him or her play. So we provide this info, and we push the maximum of context. All the knowledge that we have around the organization that is ongoing, facing the ongoing threats. We provide the list of servers, the EDRs, all the cybersecurity components around it. You mentioned it, the architecture, the network plan of the organization. We provide the list of users and their UEBA profile, the anomalies that may have happened in the past that are going on and so on. We provide this tons of data to the agents. And this knowledge is something that we are very used to when we are an experienced SOC analyst. But we should not forget that these agents are not experienced. They are just new to your domain and they need this data to perform.
Do you think they can progress beyond that, or are they always going to be these kind of runbook guided junior analysts?
They progress, yes. They really progress because the delivery of an agent on Sequoia, but I think in our ecosystem, is not only an answer, it's a reasoning playbook. So the output is a playbook. Like a Jupyter notebook, for instance.
Oh, I like
that.
So
it's a notebook that define, so you ask me to triage this alert. This alert is a network-related threat, and you gave me an initial way of investigating such threats. So the LLMs and the agents, they start raising questions. They start asking questions to themselves about how to investigate. So they trigger like 50 questions for each new alert. The kind of question that an analyst would ask himself or herself on facing the threat. And then they will progressively answer these questions using tools, using data. They have access to data lake. They query the data lake automatically. They query your integrations, the third-party softwares you provide to the agents, so API calls and so on, and they answer questions under a reasoning rationale. They follow a process, and you provide this in a notebook.
Something my junior analyst would never give me.
You would love to, and then exactly what the agent provided this way of explaining and auditing the reasoning behind. In the AI, they say the reasoning behind the process, and then you can fix this as a senior analyst. You can review it, you can fix it, and once you fix it, it's fixed for the next investigation. So this is how you can have a feedback loop and improve.
Then it gets better.
Exactly.
And then it can also apply that to other similar situations, right? Just like a human would.
Exactly. Yeah. And exposing the chain of thought is something that we don't really do nicely with humans. That's true.
And that was kind of what I meant, because a lot of times I've seen that's something students struggle with a great deal in IDS. I'm like, how did you figure this out? And they're like, oh, I don't remember. Yeah. I got there, but it was like 4 hours of I was like poking at this, poking that, open this and open that. And I'm like, okay, what did you do exactly so that we could make a nice path, prune it down to what works and get rid of all the other stuff? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, been there.
The chain of thought. This is truly this, and that's a big difference, and a great increase in the operations is exposing the chain of thought, I would say. The agentic enables it. So we can review, correct, fix it, and maybe improve it day after day.
No, I love the sound of that, because I think you're going to need this. I mean, I really think all of you are going to need this in the near future, because you are facing the attack threat from agentic AI, which works from the other side, trying to uncover things. You're going to need this in your IDS. You're going to need this in your defenses in order to respond quickly enough, right? But that said, it's very easy for a CISO. I mean, and I deal with CISOs a lot. Yeah. It's very easy for CISOs to latch on to panaceas. Somebody says AI, all your problems are solved, and they say, we're AI. And I've been seeing that over and over and over again, from schools to companies. Yep. What's the real risks here for CISOs that jump into this too quickly?
I would say is to reduce its operational capabilities. Because trying to accelerate or trying to push in AI without giving all the knowledge that is required to execute these automatic processes, it will either slow down at the end, because you will have to put a human in the loop every time. So it's getting slower, and they're having the constant collaboration between an AI and a human. At the end, it's slower than having a human doing the entire job. So what you want the AI to do most of the job, and the human just join the process, maybe at the end rather than at the beginning. And so if you don't prepare properly your foundations to the AI, you will get slower operations.
Yes.
That's the less dangerous things that may happen. The worst thing, I would say, is that you would have wrong operations. You will have wrong conclusion of triage. You will miss alerts. You will miss threats. You will put all your team's effort in useless investigation, and at the end miss the important ones. So the opposite of what you want with AI.
I agree. I mean, because it just sounds like a quick solution, but it just like you say, we need to hire 15 more analysts. Those are going to operate slow, and they're going to slow me down. Yeah. Because if you say, I need to go down and sit with these junior analysts, these human junior analysts, for the first 6 weeks to get them to a place where they're actually useful, I'm not getting as much done, and that creates some
Agree.
problems.
At Sequoia, we believe that there are three, core components that we need to provide to each junior analyst or to each agent so they can perform well. We believe that the first is the threat knowledge. If you cannot explain for each alert or for each case what's the threats behind,
Right.
when it was seen before, what kind of act or threat actor, what kind of malware, what kind of TTPs and so on. So this threat knowledge, also known as cyber threat intelligence, this is core. You need to provide this. You need obviously to provide the activities, the same way of operating cybersecurity. If you want to investigate on an alert, on something wrong that is going on, you need to provide what happened, what kind of activities you've seen, were the files open, were the firewalls switch off and so on, this kind of events. And the third is state of security. This is the new things, I would say. It exists for years in cyber, but it has been siloed. I mean, operational teams, like intrusion detection teams and so on, they are not very used to playing with vulnerabilities,
Right.
with exposure and so on. These are new other teams that tend to play with this kind of knowledge. But when you are able to combine cyber threat intelligence events around activities, but also state of security, and when you provide these to your junior analyst or to an AI agent, you provide all the requirements for an effective triage and investigation. So that's for us the three pillars of operations.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's fun. I think we could talk all day about this because it's a really cool topic. But George, thank you for joining me today. It was my pleasure. To learn more about Sequoia.io, please visit securityweekly.com/Sequoia RSAC. And for full RSAC 2026 coverage from Cyber Risk Alliance, visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. And if you will stick around, we will be back after the break with even more interviews. And unfortunately, it won't be with George, but we may get to talk to him again someday. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.